All right, this question type is rare on the SAT. They only come up like maybe 2 times per test, and sometimes not even that. This is what I'd call an unpaired evidence question. Basically, it looks like that evidence thing where we've got the 4 line references, but the question is not like as separated as the other ones, right? Normally we have 2 questions that are linked. This is just one. And so this is kind of like when we have those evidence pairs, except they've answered the first question for us. So we're just looking for a line reference that answers or explains why people would rather drive than take mass transit. We want to get to that idea. So the first thing you could do, if you're thinking from an SAT strategy perspective, is you could look at question 13 and notice that it's about line 9. And if we remember the chronology rule, the idea that the questions are supposed to be in chronological order of where they appear in the passage, that would make choices C and D unlikely to be correct because they would break the rule, okay? Right? Because if it's line 9, we would expect the answer to question 12 to be before the answer to question 13. So 1 through 8 makes more sense. However, they do break this rule from time to time, so I wouldn't answer this question only based on the chronology rule. For example, if C or D end up seeming really right, we should break the rule and pick those. We should trust ourselves more than we trust the rule. But if we're having trouble, A and B are going to be better guesses. And we're going to look at all the answers regardless. So let's look at these lines and let's see if we can find something. We want to match the idea that the author assumes that all things being equal, people would rather drive than take mass transit. So let's look at line reference A, 1 through 5. So here we go. Building good transit isn't a bad idea, but it can actually backfire if the new trains and buses merely clear space on highway lanes for those who would prefer to drive, a group that historically has included almost everyone with a car. So he's saying everyone with a car prefers to drive. So would they rather drive? Would they prefer to drive? Notice rather and prefer are basically synonyms here. So this choice is actually looking very, very good. I can't pick it just yet, but it seems to match with what the question wants from me. So let's look at 5 through 8. To have environmental value, new transit has to replace and eliminate driving on a scale sufficient to cut energy consumption overall. Well, that doesn't seem right because it doesn't talk about what people would prefer, what people would rather do, so that's not looking good. 15 through 18 is right here. But they're necessary because you can't make people drive less in the long run by taking steps that make driving more pleasant, economical, and productive. You could maybe squeeze out of these lines that the reason you can't make people drive less is that they would rather drive than take mass transit. But notice how C, in order to get that meaning out of there, we need to do a lot of assumptions. But in line A, it's kind of just there in the lines for us. I would much rather have the lines say what they need to say than have me interpret the lines to get what they need to say, right? I don't want to force the choice to fit if I can help it. So C maybe is right, but there's a lot of strikes against it. A is better, plus it would violate the chronology rule. But let's look at D. 19 to 22, it's right here. One of the few forces with a proven ability to slow the growth of suburban sprawl has been the ultimately finite tolerance of commuters for long, annoying commutes. So that says what they don't like. They don't like long, annoying commutes, but that could be a drive, that could be a mass transit. They're not getting specific there, so this is not necessarily talking about driving. So here we go. I would feel very confident picking A here, and that is the answer. It basically matches with the exact ideas in the question. So chronology rule can help us, it can nudge us in the right direction, it can improve our confidence, but ultimately we should really be going through every single question without any sort of SAT strategies and just use it to kind of understand the lines as best we can. The strategies are a nice little reassurance, but here I think it's pretty obvious what the answer is.